This is Julia with iCadenza, and I'm here with Arden Kaywin, who is an indie pop singer who has been getting a lot of attention lately, and her songs have appeared on ABC, NBC, MTV, and a number of other networks, and we're really excited to speak with her today. So hello, Arden.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My first question is, how did you first get started singing?
Oh my goodness. I actually was one of those kids who was just like always wanting to be performing and dancing and, you know, like wear a tutu to first grade. And like, it was not enough for me to just kind of be normal. Like I always had to have music on. So I think my parents picked up on that and they put me in piano lessons and they put me in ballet class. And both of those things were, I adored. And, I was in children's choirs and, that kind of thing. And then I started, because I was in dance and I was kind of musical, I started doing a lot of children's musical theater and summer camps that had to do with, performing arts. And that's where I took my first voice lesson because I was doing all these musicals and I was like, well, maybe I should learn how to sing, so I wasn't just kind of stuck in the dancing chorus. And I always sang and I always loved to sing. So it was kind of an easy progression. I was 13 when I started taking voice lessons, mainly because I wanted to do musical theater. And as I got older and my voice matured, my voice teacher, who was a classically trained singer, heard in my voice, I guess, something that kind of led her to think that I could do classical music. And so she took me in more of a direction of opera and classical voice as I got older, 16, 17, 18. And then I went to college at Oberlin Conservatory, which is a classical conservatory. So actually starting my musical progression has been very kind of musical theater to classical and then pop. So it's been a pretty broad spectrum. But if it weren't for the whole musical theater thing, I don't think I would have started taking voice lessons or singing in any real way at that age.
But even while you were pursuing opera, and you actually have sung in incredible places, including San Francisco Opera, you were always interested in pop, right? So how did you end up making that transition from opera to pop?
I basically did a total 180 in my life. I love singing opera, and I love the art form. It's incredibly intellectual and it's a challenge. And opera is the kind of thing where if you can do it, generally you do it because so few people can do it. And in my case, I was doing pretty well with it. I sang classically until I was 25. And I sang with Opera Theater St. Louis, San Francisco Opera, Brooklyn Academy of Music, Aspen Music Festival, a bunch of places professionally, and just started to get really burnt out. Because I never stopped to think if I wanted to do it. I was just doing it because I was good at it, and I could progress easily. I got roles. I got into, to the major conservatories for undergrad and for grad, and without stopping to think, how much do I really want to do this for my career and for my life? And after 3 years after I graduated from master's program at 22 and then singing for 3 years professionally, I got really burnt out. And I was in San Francisco and just feeling like very creatively stunted myself. Here I was singing with some of the best singers in the world. I mean, Denise Graves was a principal doing Carmen when we were there. And as a young artist and somebody in a position of learning, I expected to be kind of, pardon the expression, shat upon by the conductors and the coaches and the directors because we were there to learn and to even refine our craft while we were doing the supporting roles and stuff. And then I would look at the, stars like Denise Graves and how they were treated, and it was like they're the best singers in the world and they're still being told, you are flat for this, you need to do this for that note, you need to be here for that. And I'm like, here's, somebody like Denise Graves who is the best in the world singing the role that she is known for. And she's still getting that. I was like, I am I ever going to be happy doing this? You know, it's like in math, you have pi, 3.14, blah, 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 and it just keeps going, right? And I felt like the better I sang and the more I was getting hired, the further away from that, from the pinnacle I felt. It's like it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller increments of refining. And it became all about that. It became about all the voices in my head of technique and performance practice, 200 years of history, language, diction, all of this stuff, what the conductor wants, what the director wants. And it was like, singing is not fun anymore. Like, where is my creativity in all of this? And right at the same time, my brother, who's in the movie business, was living in LA and had hooked me up with this composer who did a lot of film scoring. And we started doing a project together. And I would come down on my days off and be in the studio working with her. And it was like night and day. I would, be in the studio having a ball, feeling really creative, feeling really fulfilled, and being like, okay, so this I could do, and I ended up rewriting a lot of the music with her and, singing the parts in the studio for the vocalist. And when my contract at San Francisco was up, I was like, well, I can go back to New York where my entire world is all classical music, or maybe I move to Los Angeles and I see what I can do with this kind of recording industry, and I had written music. I'd always written music, I'd always written pop music, but I never played it for anybody. I never told anybody about it, because when you're doing classical music in college, in graduate school, you don't tell people that you write and sing pop music, because there's a bit of a snootiness there that is unfortunate, So I would go into the practice room, and for like 15 minutes before I practiced my Mozart or my Brahms or whatever, I would just sit at the piano and jam. And I never told anybody, and I never recorded anything, and I never had any intention to. Some people paint or keep a journal, and that's just their outlet. And so I wrote pop songs. But once I had this experience in the recording studio, and I realized, well, hey, maybe I need to look at this more and see what I might be able to make of this. So I moved to LA, kind of had one foot in the classical world, one foot in the recording world, pop world. And, you just start to meet people and collaborators, and one thing leads to another. And then, 6 years later, I haven't sung opera professionally since then. So that's the very long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's a great story.